If you hold yourself to really high standards, you could be quietly damaging your relationships. If you're somebody who works really hard to be productive and be a generally good person, meet certain expectations for baseline success, what you consider to be baseline success might actually be quite a high bar. And you might wonder if that's a bar that you would hold other people to as well, or if it's just a standard that you set for yourself. One area I've really noticed this in my life is how high standards can start to sneak in when I'm trying to feel in control. I've found that when I hold myself to that kind of a high standard, say with my productivity or tidiness of my home, even emotional regulation and expecting myself to feel certain feelings or manage certain feelings in a certain way, it's a way for me to feel a sense of control when everything else around me feels chaotic. So the thing that I can't control is pushed to the side, and the things that I do have influence over become the focus of my attention. It's a way of self-soothing. And those high standards don't just stick with us. They often spill over into our relationships and how we expect others to behave, which can come out in one of two ways. And it's really likely actually that you might do both of these. One is you have such high standards for yourself that you expect other people to meet those standards as well, which can put obvious strain on relationships, particularly when you live with somebody and you expect them to behave the same way that you do in the house, or if you're in a relationship and you're out in the world together, but they're their own individual with their own expectations of how they want to behave and interact. And so it doesn't always align that way. I used to be a project coordinator, and so part of my role was to create project timelines for all of our projects. And there was a lot of people involved and a lot of moving pieces over the course of years. So I was really careful to stay on top of this. But what I noticed was that nobody was sticking to these timelines that I had set out, and my manager did not seem concerned at all. And in fact, nobody seemed to care. And so I started to think about it, and it turned out that it kind of didn't really matter, because what I started to realize as the project went on is that I had applied my really high standards for myself to the project timeline. As the project came together over the years, I realized that I was applying my high standards not just to the project timeline, but to my teammates as well, and it was totally unnecessary. The other way this can show up with other people is when you have such high standards for yourself that you actually end up having lower standards for other people. And this probably sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you're like me, you may be somebody who cares so much about how you show up, and you would rather have the failure be not because you didn't try hard enough, because you would be so disappointed with yourself that would be really hard to live with and really hard to accept. Whereas if somebody else is the reason for the failure and it's because they didn't show up, that's slightly more manageable than the disappointment that you would feel in yourself. It's still going to be disappointing, but it's less disappointing than if you're disappointed in yourself. And so what ends up happening is you end up over-functioning to the point where your expectations for other people, whether consciously or not, end up being lower than your expectations for yourself, and they don't have to show up to the same level that you do. Hi, I'm Avril. I'm a therapist in Canada, and I help people manage their lives, build structure, and achieve their goals. If you're interested in learning more about my therapy practice, you can check out the link to my website in the description down below. Over time, I started to realize that this pattern was exhausting me and hurting my relationships. So I had to start to let go of some things in order to be happier. Part of it was having certain standards about how the way that I'm treated, but letting go of what that might look like specifically. So for me, I expect to be treated with a baseline amount of respect. What I was interpreting in the past as respect was meeting my standards of tidiness around the house. I'd be like, if you respect me, you will put the cushions in exactly the way that I like the cushions to be placed, because you notice me and value my time and you want me to be happy. And that's, in my brain, was what I just assumed was respect without really thinking about it. But in reality, respect can look differently. And what I really wanted from the people around me and people that I've lived with is for them to care about me and notice me and pay attention to what I like and what I want and what I need. And so there's a lot of other ways that people can do that other than arranging the cushions on the couch a certain way that I like. And so I've learned to open my eyes up, and this is the reverse of the blinders, and actually make room for other people in my structure, in my expectations of what respect can look like and how I'd like to be respected and how I'd like to be treated by people. If they meet those standards in a way that you didn't expect, but they're still meeting them and you can make room for that, then great. And when we start to see respect in a broader way, boundaries naturally start to become part of the picture. If they're not able to meet those standards for you, having the skills to reset the expectations within those relationships is really important. We teach people how to treat us, both with our words and requests, as well as what we engage with and what we show them in our responses and our behavior is okay versus not okay. And so this is where the balance comes in. And if you're interested in learning more about boundaries, you might actually be interested in my other video, which is specifically on boundaries. I'll put a card up here. I'm really enjoying the process of creating these videos and learning YouTube, and I'm really excited to be able to share with more people, and I hope this is really useful for you. Consider subscribing for more videos like this. If you feel that somebody is not meant to be in your life, that may be a possibility as well. It can be really hard to feel stuck in relationships where you can't just cut it off. I don't know if this sound is going to be a problem in the background, but I'm going to try anyways. There's leaf blowers outside, which I'm grateful for, but terrible timing. Relationships are complicated, and especially when we live with somebody or it's a partnership, there can be a lot of dependence on each other, and we don't just have the option to give that up to be happier. I've been there myself in more than one relationship, but in particular, I've been in a relationship before where I did have to eventually end the relationship, but it took time. It takes a lot of time to pull the threads apart from interwoven lives and find your own way. The good news is that sometimes you don't have to do that to be happy. Sometimes you have to just let go of what your vision of that relationship was and be open to what it actually has to offer you. High standards can help push you to achieve a lot, but they can also cause problems when they start to spill out onto your relationships. Loosening those expectations doesn't mean losing your values or your boundaries. It means making space for different ways for people to show up for you. So try challenging yourself and see if there's one specific area in your life where you can loosen up your high standards, and see what happens when you allow a little bit more flexibility in. If high standards have put strain on your relationships, there may be other things that you could let go of as well to feel more connected with people and just generally at ease. You might be interested in checking out this video that I made on some things that I let go of in order to be happier, including some things that I thought were non-negotiables.